Before the next outage hits, one question may move from the garage shelf to the family budget. Can your home keep the fridge, the phone, the Wi-Fi, and basic cooling alive long enough for a short blackout, not to become a real household problem? Picture a hot summer night. The kitchen lights blink once, then go out. The refrigerator stops humming. The Wi-Fi router goes dark. Your phone is at 12%. The air conditioning stops at the exact moment the house was already too warm. One child asks whether the food in the freezer is going to be okay, and another asks if schoolwork still has to be finished. And suddenly, that small backup power box you used to see in camping videos does not look like a camping gadget anymore. It looks like a household risk question. Here is the evidence frame in plain English. FERC staff says normal summer power supplies look adequate in general, but extreme heat and extreme weather could still challenge reliability in specific regions. That does not mean the U.S. grid is collapsing. It means families should stop treating electricity reliability as something that only utilities need to think about. The core conflict is simple. A normal household needs electricity to feel boring. Always there, always available, always in the background, but the power system is being asked to handle hotter peaks, stronger weather events, aging local equipment, more commercial demand, and more AI-era data center load at the same time. So the question is not, should every family buy a power station? The better question is, why is backup power becoming a visible household risk object at all? That is what we are looking at today. The first signal is heat. When a heat wave arrives, power demand does not rise gently, it jumps. Families turn on air conditioning, businesses cool buildings, refrigerators, fans, chargers, medical devices, data networks, and water systems keep pulling electricity, and if the heat is regional, millions of households ask the grid for relief at roughly the same time. A family does not experience that as peak demand. A family experiences it as a utility alert on the phone, a thermostat that feels expensive to touch, a storm warning, a flickering light, or a fridge full of groceries that suddenly feels vulnerable. That is the translation. Peak demand is the technical phrase, and the household version is this. Everyone needs power most on the days when the system is under the most pressure. Now add the weather backdrop. NOAA says El Niño conditions are present, with a meaningful chance that the event could become very strong during the November 2026 to January 2027 window. That statement has limits. El Niño does not guarantee blackouts. It does not hit every region the same way. It does not tell one family what will happen on one street. But it does tell us the weather background is not quiet. And for households, a noisy weather background matters because outages are usually not about averages. They are about events. A storm, a heat wave, a line failure, a transformer issue, a local equipment problem that happens at the wrong time. That is why the grid can be fine most days and still feel fragile on the exact day your household needs it most. For years, many people placed portable power stations in the outdoor category: camping, tailgating, RV trips. A weekend away from the wall outlet, the object was useful, but mentally it belonged to recreation. Now the same object is moving onto a different shelf. The old question was, can this make a trip more comfortable? The new question is, can this buy time if a normal outage turns into household disruption? That word matters. Time. Backup power does not solve the grid. It does not cool a neighborhood. It does not make a home independent from the electric system. But in a household disruption, time can be valuable. Time to keep a phone alive. Time to keep a small medical device running. Time to keep a fan moving air. Time to keep a router on if the internet line still works. Time to avoid making every decision at once, in the dark, while the house is getting hotter. That is why the object matters for this channel. You cannot put grid planning stress on a kitchen table, but you can put a backup power box there. It makes an invisible risk visible. That is why this is an AI economic signal story. Not because AI is the villain, not because data centers are stealing electricity from homes. That would be too simple, and the evidence does not support it. The better mechanism is a chain. First, heat raises cooling demand. Second, extreme weather can create outage risk. Third, the grid is also being asked to support more electricity demand from manufacturing, electrification, commercial growth, and data centers. Fourth, AI is one part of that data center demand story. And fifth, households feel the pressure not as a policy chart, but as a practical question. What happens if the power is out longer than we planned for? That chain is the point. DOE and Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory reported that data centers used about 4.4% of U.S. electricity in 2023 and projected that share could rise to a much higher range by 2028. That does not prove AI causes household blackouts, but it does show that data centers and AI applications are part of a broader demand growth story. The key phrase is part of. AI data centers are one force inside a larger electricity system. Weather matters, local infrastructure matters, regional planning matters, transmission matters, customer demand matters, policy choices matter. But once electricity becomes more strategic for companies, it becomes more important for families to understand what they can and cannot assume for free. Now bring in the outage history. EIA reported that U.S. customers averaged 11 hours of electric power interruptions in 2024, and major events accounted for most of those outage hours. That number has to be used carefully. It does not prove 2026 will be worse. It does not mean every state had the same experience. Some homes have very few outages, others have lived through repeated storms, heat events, or restoration delays, but it proves one useful thing. Long outages are not just theoretical. Many American households already know what it feels like when the power is gone long enough for inconvenience to turn into planning. Before a long outage, backup power may feel optional, expensive, or excessive. After a long outage, the family asks a different set of questions. What did we lose? Groceries, work hours, sleep, safety, comfort, a phone connection, the ability to check on a parent, the ability to keep a child calm, the ability to work the next morning. That is kitchen table math. If the power is out for a short time, maybe it is just annoying. If it is out long enough to ruin groceries, interrupt paid work, or make a hot house unsafe, the cost is no longer just emotional. It becomes part of the family risk ledger. Now make it concrete. Picture a suburban family during a late summer heat wave. One parent works remotely 2 days a week, the other has an early shift and needs sleep. There are groceries in the refrigerator from a weekend shopping trip. A child has a tablet that needs charging for school. An older relative uses a device that needs power. The thermostat is set higher than usual because the electric bill already feels heavy, but the family still depends on air conditioning to keep the house safe. Earlier that day, the utility sent a conservation alert. The family noticed it, then life kept moving. Dinner had to be made, laundry was running, someone had a work call, someone else was trying to finish homework. Then the lights blink. At first, everyone waits. Maybe it comes back in 10 minutes, but 10 minutes becomes an hour. The house gets warmer, the Wi-Fi is gone, the phone battery drops. The fridge door stays closed because everyone knows opening it makes things worse. The remote worker starts thinking about tomorrow morning's meeting. The parent with the early shift wonders whether anyone will sleep. The child asks again when the air conditioning is coming back. At that moment, the family is not debating energy policy. They are making small decisions under pressure. Do we drive somewhere with power? Do we throw out food later? Can we charge the phone? Can we keep a fan running? Can someone still work tomorrow? Is this safe for the older person in the house? How long before inconvenience becomes a real problem? That is the emotional shift. The backup power box is still just a battery, but its meaning changes. It becomes a way to slow the situation down. It gives the family more minutes, more options, and more control. And this is where the channel has to stay disciplined. This is not a shopping conclusion. For many families, the best first step may be boring and cheap. Check local outage history, sign up for utility alerts, prepare basic supplies, know what insurance covers, and make a realistic plan for food, cooling, devices, and communication. The point is not that everyone needs the same device. The point is that more households may need a power plan before they need a product. A household power plan does not have to start with expensive equipment. It can start with priorities. What must stay powered first? A phone, a medical device, a small fan, a router? A child's school device, a way to receive alerts. Every family will answer that differently. What can wait? A television can wait, most lights can wait, some comfort can wait, but communication, cooling, medicine, food, and work may not wait as easily. That priority list matters because it prevents the family from treating backup power like a toy with a bigger number on the box. The real question is not, what is the largest battery? The real question is, what household function are you trying to protect, for how long, and under what local risk? That is why this topic belongs in a family budget conversation, not only a technology conversation. The hidden cost of an outage is often not one dramatic expense. It is a stack of small losses, a grocery trip that has to be replaced, a work call that gets missed, a night of sleep that disappears, a phone that dies when the family needs updates, a parent who has to drive around looking for a place with power, a child who remembers the house feeling unsafe. Those costs are hard to put on a utility bill, but families feel them. Now let's set the evidence boundary, but keep it short. NOAA can tell us the weather background is active. It cannot tell one family that its home will lose power. FERC can tell us extreme heat and extreme weather could challenge reliability in specific regions. It cannot prove nationwide grid failure. EIA can show that major events drove most outage hours in 2024. It cannot prove the next year will look the same. DOE and Lawrence Berkeley can show that data center electricity use is growing and that AI is part of a broader demand story. They cannot prove AI alone causes household outages. That is the difference between a useful signal and a fear claim. A fear claim says, panic now. A useful signal says, understand the conditions that could turn a background assumption into a household cost. The strongest counter-argument is real. The U.S. grid is not expected to fail under normal summer conditions. Many areas have adequate planning reserves. Reliability risk is regional, weather-dependent, and scenario-dependent. A household in one state may have a very different risk profile from a household somewhere else, and for some families, buying backup power may not be the best use of money. That counter-argument is correct, but it does not erase the signal. It refines it. The lesson is not everyone needs a power station. The lesson is families can no longer treat electricity reliability as completely invisible. They need to understand local risk before the next major event, not after. So here are the three signals to watch. First, watch your local utility, not just national headlines. Does your utility send peak demand alerts, conservation requests, storm restoration updates, or repeated messages about grid stress? Picture that alert showing up at 4 p.m. on a hot weekday, right when every house is cooling down and every family is starting dinner. That alert may be more useful to your household than a national debate about AI or climate. Second, look at your own outage history. How often has your home lost power in the last year? Was it minutes, hours, or longer? Did it happen during storms, heat, equipment problems, wildfire risk, or something else? A family that lost power once for 15 minutes should not make the same plan as a family that has lost power several times during storms. Third, watch how backup power is being marketed. If the language around portable power keeps moving from camping, tailgating, and outdoor recreation toward home backup, storm season, emergency preparation, and heat waves, that is a consumer signal. It does not prove every product claim, but it tells you companies are seeing a household fear that used to be smaller. None of those signals require panic. They require attention. And that is the larger AI economy point. AI does not enter household life only through chatbots, office tools, or company earnings calls. Sometimes it enters through infrastructure, through electricity demand, through the cost of cooling, through a utility warning, through a family asking whether the fridge, phone, router, and air conditioner are protected if the power stays out longer than expected. That is why this episode belongs here. It is a household risk translation. Reliable electricity, something many middle-class families treated as a background assumption, may need to become an active part of family planning, not because disaster is guaranteed, not because AI is the villain, but because heat, extreme weather, grid stress, and AI-era electricity demand are meeting in the same system. And when systems get tighter, households feel it in ordinary places: the kitchen, the thermostat, the phone charger, the Wi-Fi router, the grocery bill if the fridge stays off too long. So the practical takeaway is calm. Do not turn a national infrastructure story into a personal panic purchase. Do not assume national risk equals local risk. And do not turn this into AI will shut off your power, because that is not what the evidence says. Start local. Look at your utility alerts, look at your outage history, look at your household priorities, look at your budget, then decide what plan makes sense before the next outage forces the question for you. If you are worried about work, wages, bills, or family risk in the AI economy, this is the reason to keep watching. The first signal is rarely the final bill. It is usually a small change in the system before the household feels the full cost. I do not predict the future. I read the AI signals before they hit your paycheck, and in this case, the signal is not only in a data center map or a government report, it may be sitting in the kitchen waiting for the next time the lights blink.